All right. Hello and good morning, everyone. Thanks for waiting and thanks for taking the time to be here today. Um, let's launch into the webinar. Some of you might know this. I am Tara Anderson. I am the manager of the MRSC Rosters program, and I've been managing the program for several years now. And I want to just give a little shout out to my colleagues, Paige O'Sullivan and Leah Lasivita. They're running this webinar, making sure things go smoothly, and they'll be sending me your questions at the end of the presentation during our Q&A session. So thanks a bunch to Leah and Paige. This is some contact info also on the screen, so feel free to jot this down if you want to send in questions directly if you have to leave the webinar early for any reason. So just to go over a few technical notes here before we jump in. If you have any technical trouble, you can call the front desk at 206-625-1300, extension 100. And then also if your audio isn't working, you can try listening in by phone. So up on the screen here, we have some info for that. So you might want to also take a note of that in case you have trouble at any time. When you first entered the webinar, you'll notice a toolbar appeared on the side of your screen. To expand or collapse the toolbar, you can click on the orange arrow. And then if you want to expand the questions section and type your question or comment and submit, you can expand the section here and go ahead and follow the prompts to submit that question. And again, I'll be addressing questions at the end of the presentation. The webinar is being recorded, so if you can't stay for the Q&A session or you want to share this with colleagues, we'll be providing this recording to you by email, and also there'll be a link on the website as well. So what we'll be going over today is pretty simple. We're going to briefly cover what MRSC Rosters actually is, and then we'll talk about the application renewal and editing processes. We'll go over some application highlights that will center around common questions that I get from business members. And then I'll talk about the way public agencies use MRSC Rosters to search for businesses. At the end, again, we'll go over some frequently asked questions and have time for Q&A. So let's go ahead and jump in. As a basic reminder, the MRSC Rosters is a service that you probably signed up for because an agency told you to, but you might not have much context. So for businesses, it is essentially a directory that connects businesses with over 600 public agencies in Washington State, and participating agencies contract with our business members for small public works projects, consulting opportunities, and goods and services. For agencies, MRSC Rosters is an efficient and an affordable way for Washington cities, counties, and special purpose districts to procure services using a roster contracting process specifically. So for a nominal annual membership fee, these agencies can save some staff time and financial resources by having MRSC provide full maintenance of their rosters. So I do want to touch on what a roster contracting process is. It's pretty important. Obviously, if you're on this list, you want us to shed some light on that. So there are generally two approaches to public works contracting: a full bid process or a roster process. Most Washington local governments have the option to use a roster process instead of a full process for public works projects under $350,000 and for small to medium-sized consultant projects. In the full bid process, an agency would post an advertisement for the specific project and then select a business from the respondents. If an agency chooses to use a roster process, they will not post an advertisement. Instead, they will search their roster by a service category and then directly contact registered businesses about the project. If a roster process is used, businesses are required to be registered on the public agency roster at the time of solicitation in order to bid on the project. So you can see why it's so important to be signed up on an agency's roster. If you're not, you won't be considered or contacted for projects you might be eligible for. So it's really important to make sure to keep your account active and to renew before your expiration date in order to stay listed with your selected agencies. There are some agencies, of course, who manage their own roster internally and don't use our service. So you might want to just be aware of that. Check in with agencies when you're unsure of that. For example, the City of Seattle or King County, they're using their own internal management system for their roster. So you would want to sign up with them separately. So you might be wondering who does use MRSC rosters? Well, a lot of folks. 604 public agencies across the state of Washington are currently using MRSC rosters, and on average, about 40 new agencies join each year. Agencies include cities like Spokane, Renton, and Everett, along with counties like Pierce County, Yakima County, and Skagit County. Plus, there are hundreds of special purpose districts like Sound Transit and Bellingham School District. So you can visit the full list on the website. Just go to mrscrosters.org and you'll see there's a link that is, I guess, like the number of agencies that's linked. You click on that, it'll take you to this map where you can see who in your area is using this. And that can be helpful just to make sure that you are listed on the agency lists, just getting that glance at who's listed. So now we'll go ahead and transition into talking about how you can get signed up if you're not already, though most of you here, I assume, are members. So we'll mostly focus on how you can renew and edit information, and then we'll also just talk about some application highlights, common questions that come up. So essentially, if you are here and you're not signed up yet, you can visit the website, click on the business tab, create an account for free, fill out your application, and submit that to us for review. We usually will approve these new applications in 2 to 3 business days. If we have any questions about your application regarding eligibility, we'll send you follow-up questions and work that out with you. If you are facing a bid deadline and you need a quicker review, let us know so that we can expedite the approval process. And same goes if you're facing some kind of slowdown during renewal. If for whatever reason your application has shifted into an under review status and you need that reviewed quickly during that renewal process, just let us know. We can help out with that. So your membership includes some pretty basic things. It's not that complicated. Specifically, as a business member, you have the opportunity to register on local government, small public works, consultant, and vendor rosters in one online application. You can register with up to 9 different public agencies for free using the basic application. A small $10 administrative fee applies if you choose to select 10 or more individual agencies as a basic member. And as an enhanced member, you can get listed with everyone who is participating, so all 604 agencies. And at that point, you're automatically listed with the new agencies that join each year. And this enhanced membership can cost as little as $75 annually. It does depend on the business type and the size of business. And you can look at the fee chart on the website to get more information about that. As a registered business, you are eligible to receive job notifications from participating public agencies. These job and project opportunities are generally not advertised, like I mentioned earlier. So if you are not signed up, you will miss out. If you're not renewed and your account is not active, then you will miss out. So again, I'm just going to emphasize that it is very important to make sure you are active. Once you are a member, you are required to renew once a year. So we do email you 30, 20, and 10 days prior to your renewal deadline. And this is what that email looks like. It should link you to the website where you'll just be prompted to log in. Once you log in, you'll be immediately taken to your renewal screen where you can click to renew. Enhanced members can use the quick renewal, which will just give you a more expedited renewal process. And once you do click on that renewal button, you'll simply just go through to make sure information is up to date. You'll update any expired information or add a new project summary, and then you'll submit your renewal application. And once you do this, you'll be good to go for another year. And requiring this just helps our agency members feel confident that the business information they review in the system is accurate and up to date. They can actually download your entire application, and they will, so they can review all the information. So it is something that they're looking at, and they're looking at with a eye for detail. So you don't really want to skip over this or assume that there are things that aren't important. Just make sure that when you are renewing, you're paying close attention to the details. And I do want to mention that with the statement of qualifications, when you do renew, that you should make sure you're updating or uploading a new statement of qualifications as well. And if your business information does change before your renewal is due, then you can actually log in and edit your application at any time. So I will go over that. This is what that will look like. So again, you'll just go to the website, mrscrosters.org, log in, and you'll click to edit your application. There's a green edit icon that's pretty obvious, that should allow you to get in there and make the changes you want. And then I'm just gonna play this quick video that just lets you know what that looks like. So you can see, you go in, click this edit button, it'll take you to your application where you can then click the section you want to edit. I will let you know that we will email you whenever new agencies join. If we add new service categories, or if there's a new feature or change to the service, we'll send out emails to all of our members, no matter what status you're in. So you're not going to miss out on that information. But for example, we don't have something in the system that will trigger an email to let you know if something has expired, like your insurance is expired in your account. So that's something that you are responsible for. If you are renewing your insurance, that's a good time to sort of remind yourself, oh, I need to make sure I update that in this place as well. So I'm now going to just jump into a few sections of the application that I want to highlight. The first being the roster types. When you first are looking at that initial section of your application, you get to choose the roster type to be listed under. There are 3 roster types. So we have the small works roster type. This is focused on construction, remodeling, maintenance, and repair. There's the consultant roster. This is focused on architecture, engineering, and other professional services like legal and environmental consultant or finance consultant, even marketing work or, educational type trainings would fall under this consultant roster. And then we have the vendor roster, which is focused on goods, supplies, and purchase services. And an example of a purchase service would be something like mechanic work. And I just want to emphasize how important it is that you choose accurately here, because your choice here is going to determine which services you get to choose from later in the application. So you don't want to be listed on the wrong rosters. This will cause agencies confusion, and also it probably will lead to you getting emails about opportunities that don't apply to you, and none of us want more spam, I'm sure. So I would just advise you to make sure that you're choosing correctly here. And if you do have questions about the roster type you should be choosing, you can give us a call or send us an email, and we can sort of walk you through that and do our best to direct you in the right direction. So the next thing I want to touch on is the certifications. And this is the section in your application where you can identify as a women-owned business, a minority-owned business, veteran-owned business, etc. And this is an incredibly important page to fill out if it applies to your business. So don't skip over it. It's only becoming increasingly important for our agency members. So if you are a women-owned business, veteran-owned, etc., plug in your information here. If you haven't received your official certification number yet, then you can write self-certified in the field, sort of as a placeholder until you do get your certification number at a later date. And as a reminder, edit your application at any time. Once you get that certification number, you'll want to plug it in here. If you're curious about getting a certification, there are some websites that are obviously the most helpful. So the omwbe.org is one place you'll want to go, and then also the SBA. So visit those sites to get more information and to get the ball rolling if you want to get these certifications in place for your business. Another section that we get a lot of questions about is the statement of qualifications section. So this is where you can upload your statement of qualifications. This is required for those of you who are on the consultant roster. So again, consultants are those businesses who are on the consultant roster and provide architecture and engineering type services, as well as IT consulting or HR consulting and other types of services in that vein. So it is a document that is traditionally applicable to architects and engineers. So those of you out there who are in that field probably are more familiar with something like this. For those other consultant type businesses mentioned, this sort of stands in for marketing materials. All consultants should provide a new SOQ document every year. It should highlight your business's special skills and qualifications, since this is a document agencies review when determining who to solicit. So remember, when it comes to consultant type projects, agencies are making their decisions based on whomever is considered best qualified. So anything you can provide to demonstrate your business's expertise is going to be helpful. This is another good place to emphasize specialty licenses and to point out if you are a minority-owned business or women-owned business, you can highlight that here as well. So this outline essentially is a basic outline of what an SOQ document should look like, what they generally include. It might not be generally applicable to all of you, but I did my best to sort of take what is traditionally an architects and engineering specific document and make it a bit more demonstrative of what any business might want to include when they're demonstrating, you know, their key credentials. I do think that it's best to keep this document under 20 pages in length. You want to make it easy for agencies to skim and still get a clear idea of your specialties. So someone might be going through it fast, at a glance. It's good to have keywords in there, bold text, pull quotes, things like that. If you're looking for a sample document, I can provide you with a sample document, though it is more geared toward architects and engineers and less so toward other professional services. If anyone out there who is offering other professional services feels like they have a good sample document they'd like to share, please do send it my way. I'd love to have that as a resource. So moving on, there are just a couple more sections I do want to cover. So this next section is the service category section. I'm sure you're all familiar with this section, or most of you. This is Important, again, as a reminder, this is something where your service categories are determined by the roster type you've chosen. So again, just pay special attention to that when you're choosing your roster type. When you're selecting and updating the services you provide, it's very important to choose honestly and accurately. Do not select services that you do not provide. I've gotten some feedback from many agencies who, they're frustrated if they're searching and they find a business doesn't provide what they actually do provide. It does waste the public agency's time. Ultimately, this is going to paint your business in a bad light. They're going to have a negative impression of your business. It'll be associated with your name. That is not good for your brand. So I would just advise you to periodically revisit the services you've selected, make sure they are accurately representing your business, and that will just also help you. You'll have a better chance at getting, opportunities sent to you that are actually relevant. If you don't see a category that truly accurately describes what your business provides, then you can suggest a category. We have a form that you can fill out, and there's a link here that you can click to suggest a category to us. It's a bit hard to see, but if that's, you don't want to go through accessing that to just send in a suggestion, you can just contact us directly by email, contact form, or even a phone call if you want. Email's best because we can document the suggestion more accurately there. But yeah, we are constantly, going through these suggestions, and periodically we are adding new categories. So I would also say this is something I intend to be doing relatively soon. Within the next couple of months, I want to go through the suggestions we have received. So if you have something coming to mind, please do, open a new message in your inbox right now and send me an email. And we'll be reviewing those suggestions. And again, as a reminder, we are going to send out emails when we do add new categories, so you're not going to not know if a category has been added or not. And the last section I want to point to is the selected public agency rosters section. So this is where you choose which agency rosters you want to be listed on. And again, most of you are probably familiar with this. You can see that the agencies are organized by county grouping. So if you're looking for agencies in King County, you'll want to scroll down to the K section and check things out there. Again, I want to stress that it's very important that you only select agencies in areas where you are able and willing to work. For example, if you only provide your service in counties within a 150-mile radius of your location, then do not select that you offer your services statewide. Instead, just select the agencies in the areas you actually serve. And doing this will improve your chances of being considered for projects that you really are eligible for and that you really are interested in. This is another point, where I get feedback from public agencies who, might be frustrated if they're in Spokane and they're looking for someone to pave a road and they're getting businesses who are located in Seattle. There might be some frustration there. So just be mindful of that. And it's possible you have different branches serving different regions. In that case, it can be beneficial to simply have different accounts for your different branches and indicate in the business name the location of that branch. So if you're, all roads paving Spokane, great. Just include that and have a separate account. And this is a great way to signal to the agency that you are in their area. And that's a much better way to interact with them. Keep in mind, again, that on average, about 40 new agencies are joining every year. So as new agencies join, it's a good idea to update your agency selections. And as I mentioned, we will email you whenever new agencies join, so you're not going to be out of the loop there. Those of you who have enhanced membership and have selected to be listed by county grouping, or you've chosen to be listed statewide, you have the benefit of new agencies being automatically added to your application as those new agencies join. So you actually don't have to worry about much of this periodic upkeep. That's, you know, one of the benefits of having that paid membership. So moving forward, if you're asking yourself if you are an active member or not, there is a way that you can find out without trying to log into your account. You can visit the website, and I'll show you where to navigate this little video. Click on the business tab, and then you'll scroll down and click on registered businesses. And from here, you can type in, you know, like the first word in your business name, or you can look alphabetically. And you should be able to locate your business name. If you are active, you will appear on this list. If your account is not active, then you will not appear on the list. So in that case, if you have questions, please submit a contact form and let us know what your question is. We can help identify whether or not, you know, whether or not your account is active, inactive, etc. And those of you who are still, you know, waiting to submit your application and in the process of applying, keep in mind that it does take about 2 to 3 days for us to review and approve those submitted applications. So you're not going to see your name listed on that registered list until your application has actually been approved. So with that, we'll go ahead and shift into talking about how our public agency members use MRSC rosters to search for and contact businesses like yours. If you have questions you're holding on to that are specific to the business application or membership, you can submit those now if you want. Again, I'll be answering those at the end of the presentation. But if you have something in your mind that you want to just get in the chat box, feel free to submit that now. So, public agencies. Once your account is active with MRSC Rosters, you're going to be actively listed with your selected public agencies, and this means you'll be eligible to receive project opportunities. Keep in mind that we don't post project opportunities like some websites you're probably used to using. You don't have to visit our website and log in to look for opportunities. How it works is agencies will search for businesses when they have a need or they have a project coming up. They're going to access their account and they're going to search by roster type, such as small works roster. And then they're just going to filter by a service category. So they'll choose, you know, concrete flat work, and then they'll click to search, and it's going to provide, the system will provide them with a list of eligible businesses that they will then contact directly. So how do you know if your business appears on their list when they search their roster? You can know that your business will appear on an agency's roster when your business has selected to be listed on that agency's roster, of course. When the agency has searched a roster type that you selected, so small works, consultant, or vendor, or any combination of the three, and the agency has searched for a service or multiple services that you also selected. So that is how you'll know, you know, that your business will appear on a list. Sometimes we'll get contacted by businesses who will say, you know, an agency told me that I'm not appearing on their list. They want to work with me, but when they search, they can't find me. So if that's the case, I would suggest, you know, having a conversation with that agency and checking in with them to see, you know, what roster are they searching? And once you confirm that, you can check to see what category that they're searching. And you want to make sure that you are good to go on those fronts. And of course, you want to make sure that you are active. if you find that they're searching for, a category that you hadn't selected but you do provide, you can go in, you can select that category and make that update, and that should change immediately. So once you've done that, that should correct it. The agency should be able to run the search and find you. So that's just some sort of insight into how that works and some tips for navigating that issue if it comes up for you. Once you do show up on that generated list, agencies will contact you directly with RFP or RFQ and bid documents. Typically, they're going to contact you by email. That's the easiest way for them to contact you. However, some agencies are going to choose to call to verify a business's interest and availability. So this is just a reminder to make sure you are keeping all of your information up to date. All contact information should be accurate, and you want to have the right contacts listed so that those emails are going to the right person in your business. You can have multiple contacts listed, of course. That is generally helpful because some folks are going to want to get the notifications for renewal while others are going to want to get the project opportunity emails. So just check in on your contact information, maybe even after the webinar, and make sure that that's looking good. So we're nearing the end, but before we wrap up, I do want to go over some really common questions that we get here. So of course, one question that I get is just, why is it important? Why do I need to do this? Why do I need to be listed with MRSC Rosters? I know it's not fun to have one more thing to sign up on. So it's just important because these opportunities that come through the rosters search process are not being advertised. So if you're not listed, you're not going to get contacted. And once you sort of are in this spot where you can work with agencies on maybe some of these small to medium-sized contracts, that does give you the opportunity to sort of build good relationships with these agencies going forward. Another question which we just touched on, are there jobs posted on the MRSC rosters? Again, no, we don't post project opportunities. So it just functions as a traditional roster in which you sign up. Once you sign up, that's really the only action you need to take other than renewing. And the agencies will contact you directly with the project opportunities. So if you have questions about a specific project, you'll want to reach out to the agency directly, and that includes if you're looking for information on who was awarded or what criteria they use to sort of justify their decision. All of that information is directly held by the agency. That is not information we even have access to really in our system. So just be aware of that and direct those specific questions to the agency in question. Another question we do get is, a business might be signed up on the rosters, but they haven't been contacted with any opportunities, and they're wondering why, and that's totally valid. I would wonder the same thing. So there are a few reasons why that could be. It's possible your account is inactive due to non-renewal. Obviously, if this is the case, then the agency can't find you and can't contact you. So you can review this by just logging in, renewing, or if your application, if you forgot to complete the application, again, log in, complete the application, submit it in order to get active in the system. Another possibility, your contact information might be out of date. So again, like we just were talking about, check that every once in a while, make sure it looks good. Another thing that does happen is your spam filter or firewall could be preventing bulk emails from public agencies from reaching you. So make sure you're checking that spam folder. And also you can, if you have an IT person, you can check in with them to make sure that you are set up to receive such emails. And then lastly, of course, public agencies their needs are going to change depending on the season, depending on the type of agency, depending on their funding. So, it's possible that the agencies you're listed with just don't have a current need for a service or good that you're providing at that time. Again, if there are projects that you're aware of that you believe you should have been considered for, then you really should contact the agency directly, and they should be able to provide you with information about that. So just a quick recap. You register once and renew annually with us. That ensures that the information is up to date and accurate. You can get listed with your agencies all across Washington State. You can sign up just to be listed with one agency if that's all you're interested in. Totally cool. If you are interested in getting listed with everyone because you provide your services to all agencies all across the state, you can get listed with up to 604. And this service is just going to allow those agencies to contact you directly with opportunities. So I see some questions are already streaming in, and I'll be getting to those. Now is a good time to submit any questions you've been holding on to. And as you do that, I'll just remind you that you can expand or collapse that toolbar here, submit your question here, and we'll get the answer for you. And if we don't have an answer today, then we will follow up with you. And as those stream in, there is this training requirement through L&I for contractors specifically. I just want to point to this because as contractors are renewing in our system or signing up, this is something that we are checking and making sure that we can update this training status in the application in the MRSC Rosters database. So just be aware of this. Visit your L&I account if this is applicable to you and check on your training status. And if you need to complete that training, go ahead and do that. And once that status is updated, you can reach out to us and we'll get that updated in your application. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take some time for questions now. And again, if you have to split, you don't have time to stick around for this section, then just send your email or your question to mrscrosters@mrsc.org and we'll reach out. So I'm going to scroll to the top of my questions here and we'll start at the top. So the first question we received: do we get contacted by entities directly for a potential project or by MRSC? Yes, those emails are going to come directly from an agency's email address. So MRSC is never going to send you an email about a project. Emails from MRSC Rosters will be specific to, renewal reminders, application questions, or updates, news about the service itself, like when new agencies join or new categories are added. I know that there are some questions about the membership cost, and that is, again, something, if you go to the website and click on the business tab, and then you click on application options on the side toolbar, you'll be able to find that information. And if you have questions about navigating to that, you can reach out, but it should be pretty easy to find. Again, if you're a basic member and you're just selecting up to 9 different agencies to be listed with, that's free. If you want to get listed with 10 or more, up to 604, there's a small $10 admin fee. It's a manual process. You have to select one by one and nothing is automated. So you're not automatically listed with folks as they join. As an enhanced member, the fee starts at $75 annually. That's for consultants. I'm sorry, that is not for consultants. That's for small works type businesses and vendor type businesses. Consultants have a scale and that fee system is based on the size of your consultancy. So just check in on the website to see what that is, or reach out to me and I can send you the link. And then the next question, is it recommended to include the statewide vendor number under information about our company? I'm not familiar necessarily with the statewide vendor number, but I'm gonna say that is probably important information for the agency to have. At any rate, they would need that for documentation when they, or if they decide to work with you. So that would probably be a good piece of information to include. All right, next question. Can your roster type be revised later in the year if a mistake was made? Where can we find a better description of the roster types? Yes, you can change the roster type at any time. So if you listed yourself on the consultant roster, but you realize that you're actually providing small work services, you can go in, click to edit that section, and just make that change. When you do that, you'll of course want to then revisit your service categories and make sure that you select some proper categories on that new roster type so that you actually are actively listed by a roster category. Otherwise, you're not going to show up on a list. Better descriptions of roster types. Again, on the website, if you click on the business tab and then click on the, I think it's there is a roster type link on the sidebar. And that will take you to some descriptions. Those descriptions also link to the RCWs that go into the legal jargon of what defines these different roster types. So you can pour through the legal jargon as well if you want to get in the weeds there. And again, if you have trouble locating that link, just reach out to me. I'll provide that to you. Another question, would the statement of qualifications be a document that would explain your unique product service? Yes, that's in part what it will do. And especially if you are, not necessarily an architect or engineer, then the SOQ is going to be more of a marketing type document. It's going to look more like something you would provide to demonstrate those specialties and qualifications. So yeah, it is an optional document for those who are not on the consultant roster. So if you're a small works business or a vendor business, you can still upload a document in that space. Agencies probably aren't going to look that closely because there are different, methods they use for determining who to choose in that process. I'll point to, again, the project summary section, which we didn't go over. I don't get as many questions about that section. It's pretty straightforward, but in the project summary section, you can upload, documentation of successful projects you've completed. And that is another place too to sort of emphasize your successes as a business. And also if you have worked with agencies in the past, it shows that you have experience working with government, and that can be helpful. Let's see. Another question. We print, mail, and ship all over the states and even abroad. I just want to be sure it is acceptable to select any all in Washington and won't look negative to the agencies that aren't very close to the Olympia area. Yes, that's totally fine. I think, especially on the vendor roster, when you're providing vendor type goods and services like that, that's to be expected. So that, yeah, the agency won't see that as a red flag. Another question, you mentioned if you have multiple offices that you may want to create a different profile. Would there be additional fees for creating multiple profiles accounts? Yeah, so if you have separate branches, they would have separate accounts. That would be a separate fee if you're using the enhanced membership. If that's a burden for you, let us know. But most businesses who are operating on the level of having multiple branches are like usually our larger business members, and that seems to be something that isn't too much of a barrier for them. But communicate to us, and we'll do what we can to make it easy for you to be a member. And I will say, if you have trouble too creating another account using the same UBI number, you should be able to bypass any error if you're using a different zip code and or a different email address when you're creating the account. So just also be aware of that. You want to use some different info when you are setting up a separate branch. Another question, I missed the renew window of time. Do I then apply as a new listing? Preferably, you would just renew the account that's already in the system, because that way all your information is still there and you don't have to start from scratch. So I would just say log in. Once you log in, you'll be reactivated and prompted to renew. And you'll be able to just update any information that's existing. And that also helps keep, any danger of like a duplicate account and confusion about a duplicate business in the account or in the database. We avoid that problem. So yeah, just renew. That's easiest. And if you have trouble accessing your account, let us know. We can help you. Another question, if we are added automatically with the enhanced account, how do we prevent being added to counties that are not in our radius? Great question. So as an enhanced account, you can select statewide and you'd be listed with all participating agencies in that case. But if you are enhanced and you've selected by county grouping, which is another option in the enhanced version, then you're only going to be automatically added to those agencies who join in those county groupings that you've already chosen. So for example, if you are an enhanced member and you've chosen to be listed in King County, Pierce County, and Thurston County only, then you will only be automatically added to agencies who join within those county groupings. So that shouldn't be too much of an issue if you've gone about it that way. Another question, do you have data showing the types of businesses or services that are searched for or used most often by the searching agencies? Excellent question. To an extent, yes, we have that data. Some of you may remember that for a while we were sending out reports in our newsletter with that data, which was great. And I apologize for not sending that information out lately, but that is something that we are working on getting back in action. So the next business newsletter that goes out will have that data, current data, and some archived data from past months that we've missed. So I recognize the importance of that and how valuable that is to know, especially from a business perspective. So yes, thank you for asking that question. And that should be coming to your inbox relatively soon. All right, so another question. Agencies find us on the MRSC roster, but contact us directly with bid requests. Bid requests don't come from MRSC directly. Okay, I see. Yeah, I'm sure that we've kind of clarified this, but yes, that is exactly right. Bid requests are coming directly from agency email addresses. They are not coming from MRSC. All right. Another question regarding this contact issue, when the agency contacts us by email, does it state that they found us via MRSC? That really depends on the agency, and different agencies have different practices. So some agencies will identify that. It's helpful when they do. We like it when they do, but we don't have control over how they decide to communicate that. So another question. Do agencies contact us directly and also advertise publicly? Or as a member, are they restricted to only contacting companies that are MRSC members? So when agencies are using a roster contracting process, they should be using a roster. They would not be soliciting bids through an advertisement as well. That would be a conflict. They can't use two contracting processes for the same project. So when they're using a roster contracting process, they're going to use a roster. That means they're going to reach out directly with a request for a bid or qualifications. And they should only be using, if they're a member with MRSC Rosters, they should only be using their MRSC roster. They should not be maintaining separate rosters internally that are separate from the MRSC Rosters. Obviously, that would be really difficult for businesses to know, like, where should they be listed. The only agency I know of that has like a specialty roster is Energy Northwest, and I believe, they're dealing with nuclear waste. So I believe like legally they're allowed to have a specialized roster that is specific to nuclear waste. So there might be some circumstances like that depending on the agency and what they're dealing with. Otherwise, small works, vendor, consultant roster, if they're using MRSC for those, they should be using our rosters exclusively. Also, as far as the like after a project is awarded, they do have to report that and post about it. So, after the fact, they should be disclosing that information publicly somehow. Another question we have, how many companies are members? So we have a little over 6,000 businesses in our database. Those are all different kinds of businesses, and some rosters are going to be less populated than others. Our small works roster is by far the most populated, and our vendor roster, conversely, is the least populated. That's in part because it's newer. We added that 5 years ago, and we've had the consultant and small works rosters going for 10 years. So obviously more time to build up those lists. So I hope that sheds some light there. Another question, are we automatically notified if our company appears in a search by a public agency? That is a great question. Unfortunately, no, not at this time. We don't have a technology set up in our system that sort of sends out that kind of email. I think of LinkedIn, you get those alerts like you've appeared in a search or whatever. I think it's a great thing that, we've talked about doing something like that. It's just, we are a nonprofit. We're very small. We operate on a shoestring sort of budget-wise. So it just hasn't come to the top of our list as far as priorities, but I like getting these kinds of questions and this kind of feedback, because the more I get, the more, the more sort of power I have to say, hey, people are asking for this, so let's invest in this. So great question. And I will definitely be pinning that to my list of things to revisit for improvements. Let's see. We have a few more minutes here in our time slot, so I can get to a couple more questions. So this next question, do participating agencies typically use MRSC to ask for proposals from multiple businesses, bulk emailing an RFP, for example, or to contact businesses individually? Most often, they're going to send a bulk email to multiple businesses rather than contacting businesses individually. This can depend on the internal policies and procedures that the agency is adhering to. We advise agencies to contact all businesses that are quote unquote eligible. This just helps make it easier to distribute the opportunity equitably. However, some agencies have a rotational process that they've implemented internally where they'll contact, 3 to 5 businesses who are eligible and then rotate through that list so that they're not contacting the same businesses over and over again. And, if that's the practice that they're adhering to, they might be just contacting a select number of businesses. But again, that's going to come down to internal policies and procedures. I think from my experience and anecdotally, the agencies I talk to, it's more common for them to reach out to all eligible businesses. This is going to be different for consultant type work. They're going to review the statement of qualifications and they'll narrow their list based on who is best qualified. And again, their internal policies might dictate how they are communicating this to all the eligible businesses who did appear in the roster search. So if you have, questions about a specific agency's functioning, you can always reach out to that agency and their contracting department or, purchasing department should be able to provide you with a bit more insight. Let's see. All right, another question, is there a way to search projects that are active? And again, not on our site, we don't have active projects posted. I know that there are other sites that will post projects. I believe DES posts projects. Those are state government, I think. There's Builders Exchange that is used as well. And the Daily Journal of Commerce, I believe also is a good resource. PTAC, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center of Washington State, they also have a project posting service that agencies will use to post opportunities, but not with MRSC rosters. And it looks like we're at the end of our time. I can see that there are some questions that I'm not going to be able to get to. So if I didn't get to your question, we should have that data. I can pull your question and reply to you by email. I'll even do a follow-up email to all attendees so that everyone can have that insight. And again, if you have other questions that come up, please reach out to us directly. Thank you again so much for your time and for your great questions and engagement. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.